Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. It is the FF Mediators, and we are back today ready to answer your questions. We're excited to be here. So, if you're in the stream, please feel free to jump in the comments. Let us know what's going on with your fantasy teams, trades, buys, sells, whatever you're thinking about doing. Start sit questions. Coach and I are here to answer your questions. So, how are we doing, Coach?
Man, doing good, doing good. You?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm ready to answer some questions. We've got several people in here, so we appreciate everybody that's here. So if you're here, please be sure to hit that like button. We're excited to talk some fantasy football with everyone. Coach, I've got a question for you before we get started with the comments. In a vacuum, Marvin Harrison or Brian Thomas Jr., who would you rather have?
Oh man, this is tough. Like Marvin Harrison gets all the hype, but I'm a Brian Thomas Jr. guy. Like I've been the one pumping the brakes on Marvin Harrison since the beginning. I can't back off of that now.
You
What
have been
about you?
preaching that this whole entire season. I think in a vacuum, I'm probably going to go with Marvin Harrison, but I think it's a lot closer than people want to talk about. I really do. So we'll just have to see how it changes. I mean, obviously, Trevor not being there for the Jags kind of changes a lot of things, but I still expect him to have a pretty good career. He's shown us already he's a really good player. So I'm excited to see how he develops. But you ready to jump in some questions, Coach?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey,
All
by the
right.
way,
First
too,
question. Yeah.
if you want to jump the line, hit us with super chat. You'll go to the top. The questions are already coming in pretty fast, so
Yeah, we'll be sure to hit those if any come through. But otherwise, we will go down the list, hit as many questions as we can. We typically answer every single one, so we'll roll through these for about an hour and a half or so, and we'll answer them all. So let's jump to our first one. Coach Mandy over on YouTube says, "I need to know if I should pick up Estimate and get rid of Kareem Hunt with Pacheco coming back." Coach, I know Esme has been kind of one of those big targets this week in waiver wires. Is that someone that you're going to trust going forward with the Broncos offense?
man, I think it's worth a shot. The Javante thing, being a Javante owner, I know he got a piece of Javante here or there, and I really don't understand what happened there. Like honestly, he went from actually played pretty good a couple games in a row, and then all of a sudden now was more or less been benched for Estime. So I mean, with Pacheco coming back, you're not really going to need Kareem Hunt when Pacheco comes back. So I would totally go try to pick up Estime for Hunt.
Yeah, I think I'd take Estimate too, especially if I do have Pacheco sitting there on my bench. Chase the points while you can because I think Kareem Hunt's going to be taking a back seat. And like you mentioned, the Broncos offense, I don't know what's happening. Javante didn't really do much of anything, but Estimate had 45% of those snaps. So we'll just have to see.
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
All right. Different Strokes over on Twitch says, "Would you trade Pollard and Brian Thomas Jr. for Neighbors?" That's a pretty interesting question. I mean, a lot of this does hinge on Trevor Lawrence. Now, we did get the news today that Trevor Lawrence is expected to possibly be coming back after the bye week. So, Coach, does that sway you at all in this trade?
I think if it's redraft and you need the running back help, also the running back depth, then I support it completely, more or less, because of Daniel Jones and the struggles there. Dynasty, I would hold Neighbors without a doubt, like no questions asked. So, I mean, redraft and it helps your team with Pollard, then possibly yes. Dynasty, absolutely not. I'd keep Neighbors.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. If this dynasty, I'm holding on Neighbors, no doubt. Redraft, if I need the spark of Neighbors, I can see it, but it's just going to depend on what's on your team. Because if Pollard is like your RB3, then I would not do this deal. But if Pollard's your RB4 or 5, and you can afford to move him, and you've got Brian Thomas Jr. with the Trevor injury, I would be okay with that. So just kind of depends on the team context. So if you're in here, let us know and we can go into more detail. Let's jump to our next question from Melissa. "Hey guys, trade Cup for Mike Evans straight up. Would you do that, Coach?" I think I'm going to take the Cup side here.
Yeah, me too. Like, Cup keeps playing well. I did not see what's the latest last couple of days on Evans injury
That's what I
wise.
was just looking up. He's targeting for a Week 12 return, so I think given that news and kind of how the Bucks have been playing, and I mean obviously Baker's really hot, but for me, I think Cooper Cup's just really good. He's going to get the volume, and that offense just keeps humming. So I'm going to take Cooper Cup.
Well, when Evans comes back, he's going to be a baller, but he'll be great. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I think Cup is the safe play. Like Cup's going to be efficient no matter what. He's out there playing right now, no injury. Like Cup to me, I'm holding Cup.
Yeah, I mean, you spot on there at that last part. He's playing right now. I mean, with Mike Evans, he might not play this week, or he's not going to play this week, excuse me. Then he has a bye week, and then he's targeting a week 12 comeback. So that's already 2 weeks that you're not going to have a player. Cooper Cup already had his bye, so you're going to have him both weeks. Give me those points.
Yep, absolutely.
Hoff jumped in here, coach. He said, "Have a great show, fellas. Cheers. Cheers to you, Hoff. Hope you're doing well. We are excited to be here." Let's hit Brian's next question, coach. He says, "Need advice on whether I should trade Worthy from Kansas City." I mean, it's tough with Worthy because he's just such an explosive play. Patrick Mahomes is a really good quarterback who's going to spread the ball around to someone who's open. I mean, he's just going to be an inconsistent player all year. So, coach, do you have any decisions there on what you would do with Worthy?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you need, but yeah, Worthy's kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride. Like I like what Worthy provides in the future, dynasty wise, because of his athleticism. Just week to week, it's going to be one of those things where some weeks he's going to hit, some weeks he's going to be disappointed. He's more of a flex play for me right now. So, I mean, somebody I would consider trading for the right piece for sure.
Yeah, he's really volatile. So I would certainly be looking to move him if I can, especially if you have an owner in your league who's interested and willing to pay up for him. Because, I mean, right now, you can't trust playing him. I mean, in the last 4 weeks, 3 points, 11 points, negative points, 1.6 points. So he's just hurting your lineup. But we do have a super chat, coach. So let's jump over to Stephen Drake's question. Let me get up here on the screen. We appreciate you, Stephen, for the super chat. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and get started here. It says, thinking about this week and the rest of the season, I have the Broncos and Chargers. Should I stay or pick up Falcons, Titans, Eagles? They're also available. Also, is Deontay Johnson droppable? A lot to think about here. Go ahead, coach.
Yeah. Hey, I'll go ahead and start with the Deontay Johnson thing. Like, yeah, I think he probably is droppable. It was funny that I know you probably saw this, Matt, where Mike Tomlin was asked about Deontay Johnson, and he pretty much laughed and said, "There's a lot
Yeah,
more guys on the team with a lot bigger roles for me to worry about than Deontay Johnson." Like that speaks volumes. And some of it was the timing was odd, and Zay Flowers is playing the best football of his life right now. Um, so yeah, I mean, depending on what you're going to drop him for, obviously that matters, but I, he's definitely someone I would be willing to drop.
yeah. I think it's just going to kind of depend who's on your waiver. So if you're still in here, let us know who's on waivers and available. We can kind of walk through that a little bit more. But I completely agree with Coach where, you know, Tomlin was pretty direct when he was asked about what to
Mm-hmm.
do with Deontay Johnson. And I think there's a little bit of truth there. But, I mean, how much do you make of the fact that he had 2 targets on his 5 snaps? So, I mean, 40% target share.
Well, that's valid. That's true. I don't know what to
So,
make of that. I mean, Deontay Johnson's better than he's been playing, so there is that.
mhm.
Um,
But and I
it
think
could
there's
be something
something
to
to the
happen.
Ravens offense too.
Hmm.
Yeah. As for the defenses here, Coach, let's jump into those. Before we go too far, Stephen, Pete with Face Off Sports Network, he is absolutely incredible with defenses. So he does a weekly video. I would highly encourage you to check those out. It's tremendous help. It's helped me in my fantasy leagues. He's kind of a defensive expert right now. He's got 10 straight weeks of a top 10 defense, and it was top 7, but that was because this week he had the Rams who finished at 9 on the week. But regardless, he's got the Broncos and Chargers, coach. As it stands right now, the Chargers are the number 6 defense on the year. The Broncos are number 4. So pretty stout group there. Should I stay the course or should he pick up the Falcons, Titans, or Eagles? Um, Looking at the schedule ahead for the Broncos, we've got Atlanta, Vegas, Cleveland. Those are pretty two good matchups right there between Vegas and Cleveland. Coach, do you have a preference on any of these defenses, or are you okay with sticking with the Broncos and Chargers here?
Yeah, I was running some numbers. To me, if I was going to pick one of those three up, it would be the Eagles. But at the same time, I'm definitely holding the Chargers. I believe they have the fewest points. They've allowed the fewest points on the season. Harbaugh just has them playing such good football, especially considering what that roster makeup is, especially on offense. Man, that defense is playing out of its mind. I mean, Harbaugh can flat coach, and he's turned that thing around significantly. I've, I'm definitely holding the Chargers. I would, in a vacuum, as far as the best defenses, I think I would rather have the Eagles than the Broncos. But like you said, the Broncos matchups are so favorable. I think I'd probably just stay where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the next 3 weeks for the Eagles, obviously they have Washington tomorrow. They've got the Rams after that. Then they have Baltimore. So, not exactly the three best matchups. And then after that, they do have Carolina. So, that's a good matchup. But I think I'm going to stick with the Broncos and Chargers. I mean, they're putting up points right now. Yes, there's some favorable matchups for the Titans and the Falcons, but those defenses aren't really teams that I would trust right now. So I think you should stick with the Broncos and Chargers for now. And then you can also, since you have two, you can stream as we move forward. Like I said, go follow Pete's videos. They're incredible, really beneficial.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit our next question here. Daniel says, "Hi, new subscriber. I was offered Swift for Mixon. Couldn't help but laugh internally. I want to counter, would a trade for Mixon and CD for AJ Brown, Pickens, and Swift make sense? He has Connor and Chubb." Well, that's certainly making the deal a little bit more interesting, moving from Swift to Mixon. Interestingly enough, Coach is a pretty big Swift believer. I mean, I don't know if you were as big enough a believer to move him for Mixon and redraft, but would you move Mixon and CD for Brown, Pickens, and Swift? I mean, given the QB situation in Dallas, CD is going to have to take a hit, right? I mean, he's still really good, but
Well, in fairness, I was a Swift believer prior to the bye week when it's been a complete disaster since they came back from the bye week.
fair, fair.
I still think Swift's a good player. And he is the only back pretty much they're giving the ball to in Chicago. But Mixon's better in redraft, clearly. CD, that's super concerning. The quarterback situation is really concerning in redraft right now. Like, CD's a guy everybody thought was going to be a league-winning wide receiver, and now with the quarterback situation, just the overall play in Dallas, it's concerning. I would rather wrestle away. I'd rather have AJ Brown than CD myself.
I think I would too, but the big question I have for you, Coach, right here is given this trade, if he's moving Mixon, then he's stuck
Mm-hmm.
with Swift and Connor as his true RBs because Chubb is going to be his third. Obviously, the Browns are in all sorts of just trouble and hot water. Chubb has been almost worthless. So, are you comfortable with Swift being your RB2 and rolling with that unit, but you're adding Pickens and Browns, which is two heavy hitters?
Yeah, I think I would. Like, I think to me that's a move that could possibly. I mean, I'm going for it kind of move. And James
Mhm.
Conner has been really dang good. So I think in redraft, like I would be comfortable with that.
Yeah, and it's week 11, so now's the time where you're going to have to make that
Uh-huh.
move. If you're swinging for the fences, we've got trade deadlines approaching, we've got playoffs approaching, so I think we've got to start making these types of moves if we're going to try and go and win it. For me, I'm comfortable with it. I mean, Swift and Connor, it's going to be a little bit scary. You might have to monitor your waivers, but for the most part, those are two heavy hitter wide receivers, and I don't know what your other wide receivers are, but hopefully you can add to that group and have something to work with.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Samir Coach says, "What do I do with Tyreek Hill?" And that is a good question. Obviously, he did get in the end zone this past week, so that was nice to see. I expect with Tua coming back and this offense should get better, wouldn't you think? But I mean, the injury, it's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get better. Yeah, the injury's concerning, but he played pretty good this past week with the injury. He seems committed to playing with it. The Dolphins are going to play better. That's without a doubt. Like, I think I'm going to hold Tyreek. If it's dynasty, I'm assuming this is probably redraft. But if it was dynasty,
Hmm.
I would be looking to move him right now. If I wasn't contending, I'd move him today if I could.
Yeah, I think unless you've got some sort of offer out there, Samir, right now I'm going to hold him and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. But as far as it goes for redraft, I mean, or excuse me, I think I misspoke there. If it was dynasty, I'm going to sell. But if it's redraft, I'm going to hold unless someone overpays. But it's going to be tough to get that because, like Coach said, he played through the injury. He had double-digit points, but still not really enough to look like the old Tyreek. But I think those days might happen. I mean, they're going to have to score points and get the ball to their best playmakers because this team is struggling.
Absolutely.
Skipped a question here, Coach, from Facebook. Jared chimed in and said, "Hey guys, hope all is well. Thoughts on Jefferson or Nico rest of season redraft?" We'll start there and then we'll finish the rest of the question. Rest of season, that's tough. I mean, we both really like Nico, but it's hard for me to pick against Justin Jefferson just because he's that good. Coach, do you have any difference there?
Nah, totally agree with that. Jefferson.
Yeah. Then he says Mahomes or Wilson this week. Obviously, Wilson due to the matchup. Mahomes has looked good since Hopkins arrived. So, do you have any preference this week between Wilson and Mahomes, Coach?
Hang on.
I mean, Mahomes has Buffalo on Monday night, so that's going to be kind of a primetime game. As far as it goes for Wilson, he's played a lot better. Obviously, he beat my Commanders last week, so I'm a little salty with that. He plays Baltimore, so that's a really positive matchup. They're giving up insane amount of fantasy points every single week to wide receivers. So I get it. It's weird that we're sitting here questioning, do you start Mahomes? But it's a legitimate question.
Well, it's a legitimate question in Buffalo too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. It's on the road in Buffalo at that. So, I really do like Wilson. Wilson's been playing phenomenal, man. Like, Russell Wilson is the reason the Steelers have a legit chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, he has played really, really well, and I love the matchup. Like, I would really close my eyes and put Wilson in and pray I'm not a total idiot.
Yeah, that's where we're at. I think I'm going to start Wilson too. I mean, he's played well. 3 games, 24 points, 14 points, 19 points. So, and Mahomes has just kind of been ho-hum the entire season. It's different and it's weird, but
doesn't this kind of scream the game where he blows up? You know what I mean?
The Bills-Chiefs matchup has produced a lot of interesting games over the years, so it would not surprise me one bit if we got hit with another one.
Yep, absolutely.
But let's jump to Chris Cruz's question here. Coach said, what to do with Tyreek? So we've had a couple of people panicking on Tyreek here. He says, hold or sell for someone like Debo. Now, this is an interesting question because Coach is a big-time Debo believer. I think regardless of format, he might do this deal in general.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'd do it regardless of format. I'm just a big believer in Debo and what he provides, and the offense is really starting to hum there in San Fran. Yeah. Dynasty, it's easily no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and even on top of that too, Coach, Debo, he's played pretty well. I mean, the only thing holding him back is he doesn't have the touchdowns this season. And if we know anything about the 49ers, they score a lot of points. Christian McCaffrey opens things up. So I'd kind of expect Debo to have some positive touchdown regression. So I'm going to go with Debo here. If you can move Tyreek Hill for someone like Debo, I'm all for it.
Yep, me too.
Ooh, Coach, this is a good question. I think this is in regards to the Marvin Harris and Brian Thomas comments, maybe. How comfortable are you with Mac Jones?
Not very comfortable.
It suddenly feels a little bit worse, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and considering the fact that me and Matt co-managed the league where we had Mac Jones, we had this dilemma. We had T-Law, he was hurt, so we also had Mac Jones on our bench. So we had to play Mac Jones this past week. Somehow we won, but it wasn't because of Mac Jones. And needless to say, we traded Trevor this week to try to solidify our quarterback position.
Yeah, we moved Trevor for Goff, so it was a pretty good deal for us. Hopefully we can stay in contention and win the league, but we'll just have to see. Going to add Tyler in here, folks. Welcome in, Tyler. We're happy to have you here. We will continue moving on. You doing all right, Tyler?
Yeah, man. Good. Glad to finally be in here. I have some tech issues, but we're good.
All right. Well, let's carry on. Lil Bro says, what would you do? Or, well, interesting question. Amon-Ra for AJ Brown. I have Hurts. Coach, would you prefer Amon Ra over AJ Brown? I've seen several people talking about Amon Ra's season so far, um, as it's a disappointment. But I mean, he's still wide receiver 7 on the season, so I think that I'm not going to panic too much on AJ, or excuse me, Amon Ra. But what do you think, Coach?
Um, Amon Ra's awesome for one. I'm gonna say that, but the offense is so good with so many weapons that it has caused him a slight regression. But I still think Amon Ra is the better of the two. Like I would rather have Amon Ra.
Yeah, Tyler, what about you? Any preference between Amon Ra or AJ Brown?
I'd take Amon Ra here as well, over AJ Brown. I'm a big proponent of stacks, but I'd take Amon Ra.
Yeah, I think you do mention the stack there, little bro, and I think that is relevant with one like this. I mean, it's the type of stack where you can create a huge fantasy difference if you hit on a day with AJ Brown. But like Coach said, Amon Ra is really dang good, and I'm not going to panic too much with him. So I'm gonna roll with Amon Ra. He's proven. I mean, his stat box is just insane. Like it's unbelievable to look at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games over 15 points. So give me that every single day. Let's jump to our next question here. Mike over on X says a bunch of players are on bye. I need a quarterback and a tight end as well as a kicker. Who should I drop for one this week? And then he adds Bucky, Travis, or Brian Thomas Jr. Um, I don't know who you are dropping, but man, that seems a bit expensive to me. I have a hard time dropping Bucky. I have a really hard time dropping Brian Thomas Jr., especially with the news that Trevor Lawrence is going to come back. Tyler, are you okay with dropping ETN here?
Um, man, I don't know if so. Did we get news? I thought we got news that Trevor was out this week. Did I read that wrong?
He is out this week, but they
Mhm.
put out news that they're hoping that he'll be back after their bye week.
Okay.
So that's week 12. If he did come back, he's looking at a matchup against Houston, Tennessee, the Jets, Vegas, Tennessee, and Indy. So that's how he's going to close out his season.
Yeah, that's
And I
kind of
think that
tough.
Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of so we've not seen ETN produce as well as he has been here recently, especially with Tank being there. Um, but I don't really want to drop Brian Thomas Jr. But if you're dealing with that long of an absence between T Law being out a bye week and then you've got Houston and you said the Jets in there for sure, that's two at least solid defenses. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to dropping him, but it still doesn't feel good.
Coach, what about you? Do you have any concern here about dropping Travis Etienne? Would you rather drop Bucky? Um,
No, I mean I would drop ETN first probably. For me, it'd be ETN, Bucky, Thomas. But whichever one you drop, I wouldn't necessarily expect to be there to go pick back up. So make sure you're comfortable
I
with
agree.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, here we are, and it just feels like ETN's season could not have gone worse. I mean, it has just been all over the place. So we'll have to figure out what to do with that mess in the offseason, especially for our dynasty teams and our dynasty friends in here asking questions. So Hoff says, be sure to smash that like button. So everyone, please hit that like button. Like Coach said earlier, if you want to skip the line, hit us with super chat. We will jump straight to that. Otherwise, we will continue to roll down this list. So keep filling in the questions, and we will keep answering them. All right. Sauce on X Coach says, would we sell or hold CD Lamb?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Mm.
I've toyed with this idea all week. Um, oh man, it's tough. Here's the thing: CD Lamb is easily the number one option on that offense. I don't doubt that for 1 second. The injury, okay, whatever. He played through it this week. I don't think we expected him to necessarily produce to the same level as if Dak was there. But being blinded by the sun because of the way Jerry World is built, him missing that touchdown really did hurt for fantasy this week. as much as I want to say trade CD and get what you can out of him, I don't think you're going to get the return that you're looking for that to trade CD. So as much as I hate to say it, I think you just have to sit on him unless you can get a good return of what a healthy CD with Dak would get, which I highly doubt you're going to do. I would just hold on to him, man. He gets too many targets.
Coach?
I'm gonna have to hold him too. Like, I think, well, gosh, I'll say this: it depends on what you can get for him. Like, if I look out there and I
Okay.
see a guy I can go get, like, I mean, Amon Ra would be an example, right? Can I go get a guy like that I feel more comfortable with the rest of the way? Then, I mean, I'd try it and see.
Okay. Well, then my question to you would be, I'll ask both of you this. Would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens?
That's the exact name I thought of too. I was like, I think I would rather keep CD, but I have one after this once Coach answers.
Yeah, I agree.
Coach?
I think I'm Lamb too. There.
I think we have to think about Pickens. Like, I don't think it's that easy to just dismiss it, but that's just me. But Tyler, what's your name?
I do think it's close. I'm not saying it's not close, especially with Russ being in there. He's become Danger Russ again.
Mhm.
So, um, my name was Drake London though. Like
Mm.
if you could get Drake London for CD, would you do that?
Oh yeah,
Coach London's your boy.
totally.
I'm going to let you say it first.
Oh yeah, I would. I mean, if you look at, I got in PPR, Amon Ra's wide receiver 6, Lamb 5, London 4. I mean, yeah. I mean, how do you feel about Terry McLaurin for CD Lamb rest of the way redraft?
The best wide receiver in the NFC East? Did I say it? I
Oh,
don't know. I mean, it's tough to argue. I mean, I can't believe this. I'm looking at his box score. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 straight double-digit games for Terry. I mean, it's unbelievable, guys. He's finally been unlocked with a quarterback. I'm so happy to see it. I've suffered through it my entire life as a Commanders fan, but you know, I have a tough time moving for Terry McLaurin. But if I'm winning, I mean, that's the type of move you got to make. I mean, you got to call that shot and see what you can do because Dak's not coming back. There's talks about Trey Lance starting, which why we're going through this experiment still, I don't know. But um, I don't know. We'll just have to see.
I think one name you could target if you are going to try to go and trade Lamb or two. I'll actually give you two. If you could get Jaden Reed out of it, I'd do that. If you could get Jaden Reed out of CD, I'd probably do it. Or if you could somehow get to Malik Neighbors, maybe somebody's scared of Daniel Jones being benched and getting Drew Lock, I'd probably trade for Neighbors too.
Is Drew Lock
Yeah.
worse than Daniel Jones?
I don't think so. That's the thing.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a good question. It's a really good question. But let's jump on to our next question, guys. Matt on YouTube says, being offered Debo, A-Chain, and Eckler for Pickens, Cook, and Tyrone Tracy feels like I could end up wrong if I accept this trade. Tyler, are you comfortable accepting this trade?
Let's see. So obviously, if this is a dynasty question, I would keep Pickens I would keep Pickens in them. Um, if it's redraft, I don't necessarily hate it. I do think HN has the higher upside as well as Debo. This is kind of a stability thing for me. If you have the stability in the rest of your roster and you're shooting for upside, I'd probably take it. If these are like if Pickens, Cook, and Tyrone Tracy are your like most stable pieces, I probably wouldn't do it.
Coach, what about you?
Pickens, Cook, Tracy, it's not even close for me.
I think I'm going to take the Pickens side. And this might kind of shock you guys, but I might take it regardless of format.
Me too. That's what I'm saying. I don't care.
Yeah, I feel like HN. I watched the game the other night, and I text you guys that when HN gets suffocated in the backfield, he can't go anywhere. Like he's too small. He's got to have the space to get the wiggle and use the burst that he has. And man, like when you look at his bad games, like they're bad, and his yards per
Well, there's
carry
not
is
a
killing him.
there's not a game
Good.
where he's the guy. There's not a game where he's the guy. I mean, he's sharing
Yeah.
the load constantly. Where Cook and Tracy, I mean, they're not. Cook especially.
I mean, I shouldn't say he's killing you because his receiving work is floating him. I mean,
totally.
he's getting like 7-8 targets a week. So, that's really good fantasy points. But if you're not in some sort of PPR or if it's a standard league, then I think that hurts a little bit more. But it's just something to think about. Like, I don't know. Like Tyler said, he's probably the highest upside player just because he's the only one that can take it for the house every single time he touches the ball. But I think Pickens and Cook are really good, and I think Tyron Tracy's really good. So I would do this deal regardless of format. Coach Tyler, you weren't here for this one, but Coach Tyler, or excuse me, Alyssa asked us the Cup for Mike Evans trade earlier. Adds, does the choice change if Cup sits on my bench in the Cup for Evans deal? I think my answer remains the same. I'd rather have Cup going forward because you just don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. If Evans is going to be out, I'd like the flexibility. Or excuse me, if someone's going to be out and Evans is already out, he's not going to help you. But if you have Cup on your team, then that gives you a player to put in your lineup.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if Cup's on your bench, then Evans is probably going to sit on your bench too. Like that's how I take it myself.
Fair. I think that's fair. All right, let's jump to the King's question next over here on YouTube. Thanks for being here, LeBron. We appreciate you. How do we feel about Brian Thomas Jr. and Waddle? My wide receiver room feels like a bunch of zeros right now. Who should I be targeting with either one of them? Obviously, we've talked several times about Brian Thomas Jr. tonight. It's going to be a little sketchy with Mac Jones back there, but we'll just have to see what happens and hope Trevor comes back after the bye. As for Waddle, Tyler, I want to kick it to you here. Jalen Waddle, what do we do? I mean, he had the 2 early catches to start the game the other night, and then after that, really quiet. Not much involvement. How concerned are you with Waddle?
I mean, it would be wrong of me to tell you I'm not concerned at all. So I'm not going to do that. I mean, there's definitely a level of concern. I find it interesting that Tyreek does have the torn ligament in his wrist. And if he continues to play, and let's say the Dolphins, get out of the playoff race and they decide to sit him, I think Waddle becomes the one there. That still hasn't provided or produced to be fruitful this year. So, I mean, I don't even know what you can get for Waddle at this point, though. That's the issue. Like, I mean, you're definitely not. I don't think you're getting Pickens for him. I think you're getting a wide receiver 2 probably at best. Like, okay, so question: if you could get Cortland Sutton for Waddle, would you do it?
Yes, in a heartbeat. I would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would in a
and
heartbeat.
I don't even know you can get that deal done.
I mean, Sutton is wide receiver 16 on the season. Jalen Waddle's 63. Waddle has one game this entire season over 10 points, and that was week 1. Every single week, he has been a disappointment in hurting your lineup.
Valid, but he hasn't had a quarterback for a majority of this time either. I think Waddle's going to play better the next few weeks. I mean, honestly, I would rather I feel better about Waddle than I do BTJ, unless Trevor comes back and plays well. Like,
I mean, yeah.
If Trevor's back and healthy, then I feel really good about Brian Thomas Jr. again. If Matt Jones is playing quarterback come time after the bye, then I don't want no part of him.
I completely agree. I mean, Mac Jones is scary. I mean, you mentioned he hasn't had Tua. I mean, that's true. He had Tua for the first 2 weeks. I mean, week 2 is 75% of the game when Tua got hurt. But the last 3 weeks he's had Tua, and it just really hasn't amounted to anything. 6 points, 6.7 points. So if I could get Sutton, I'm absolutely doing that. That's a great name, Tyler. I mean, he's kind of flying under the radar. Sutton just gets so many targets every single week. Like Bo Nix is just peppering him with targets. So I would chase that.
There's nobody else there.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to talk about the Dolphins offense. Do we think the defensives have figured out how to guard this? Do we think they figured out how to defend against the Dolphins type of offense? Or is it just lack of performance on everybody's part.
I think losing Tua, like Coach said, was a big deal. I mean, slows the offense down, running through backups. But I mean, again, if you can't get the big playmakers in space that they have, that's a problem. I mean, Tyreek, Waddle, A-Chain, Mostert, Wright, all of them are known for just taking space and just being yak monsters or, yards after contact or whatever it is to just break through and make big plays. And they just haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
Coach?
I mean, I do think Tua being out is a big problem, has a big part of this. But at the same time, the next part of this is that they can't run the football. Like, they can't run the ball. Like, that's the thing. Like, yeah, A-Chain does pretty decent in fantasy because he has 42 catches on the season, but he has 450 yards. Like, they're not running the ball very well, and that's the issue. Like, there's no physicality to the Miami Dolphins whatsoever, and that becomes a problem over time. If they don't have to honor the run at all, then it's an issue. But I do think it's going to be better with Tua back. So I mean, there is that.
And it's interesting to me because Mostert only 15% of the snaps last week. Like he just
It was
wasn't
weird.
on the field at all. And he, like, while yes, he's not the biggest person, he does bring some of the physicality you're talking about, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Especially last year. Like last year was his best year he's ever had, and he just hasn't had the opportunity to do anything with it. But we'll move on here. We've got a super chat from Alfred over on YouTube. We appreciate that, my friend. Thank you for hitting the super chat. Let's jump into his question, guys. He says, I have Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas Jr., Hopkins, and Devonta Smith. Thinking about comboing Lamb with Terry for someone like Chase. Would that be a good idea? Coach, I'm going to ask you first. Would you combine Terry and Lamb to go and get someone like Jamar Chase?
Yes. I mean, yeah. If I could redraft, absolutely. So I guess I'm misreading this, but does he have Terry in this lineup too?
I'm assuming he does. I mean, I guess he's just telling us the depth he would have on top of Chase. So combining Chase, Wilson, Brian Thomas, and Hopkins with Devonta Smith is a really, really good lineup. So I would be very comfortable with that. So if I could move Terry and Lamb, I would absolutely do it. Tyler, what about you?
I think I would as well. I would be more interested in, instead of Terry, if you could trade high on D Hop's weeks instead with Lamb. I think I would try that first.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
because,
that's a
like you
really good
said,
selling
Terry's
point.
yeah, just because Terry's had that production all year. If I could sell off of D Hop
Uh,
and Lamb, yeah,
mhm. Yeah, I mean,
Now,
with the 2
if you
touchdowns last week.
if you can
Go,
move
Coach.
Hopkins or BTJ, either one, I would swing. I would throw that out there first. If they don't buy it, then I'd circle back to Terry. But if you could hold on to Terry also, man, that would be a loaded room.
Yeah, see if you can't do something like that. But otherwise, man, I think all of us would take Chase. Given your wide receiver room how it is already, it's pretty loaded. So, I mean, you're just gearing up for the playoffs and trying to score a bunch of points. And Chase is the guy to do that. I mean, he is that
Well,
good. So I would
it's a
absolutely
tough,
be.
might be a tough time to go try to buy Chase though after this past week.
yeah, for sure.
Well, that's very true. Um, but let's jump to our next question, guys. Over on Twitch, we got asked, is it a negative to have AJ Brown and Saquon? So it's kind of the inverse stack, if you will. Rather than having the quarterback, you've got the running back and the wide receiver from the same offense. So that can kind of be a difficulty in certain offenses. But I have a feeling where the three of us might answer on this question. So Tyler, I will let you go first.
I don't mind. I do want to say we do have a video about this stack topic, and we definitely brought up the Eagles actually in there as far as having, if you have an elite offense, if you've got the running back and wide receiver one, I don't care. That's fine to me. If they're elite, give me all of them. That's fine. The issue becomes when you have a less productive offense. If you have, like, I don't know, let's like Okay, if you have the Colts, okay, like if you have JT, that's great. Do you want one of those wide receivers as well? Probably not. That's not going to go well for you because they're going to vulture everybody. But if you have an explosive offense that can score a lot of points at times, I would take them both and not have any issue with it.
Yeah. Coach, what about you? Do you have any disagreement with Tyler there? Or are you comfortable with having both players like this?
Yeah, I totally agree with Tyler. You think about like the Eagles, the Lions, teams like that. Sure, give me all of them. I don't care.
Yeah. I think if the question was, how do you feel about having Javonte Williams and Cortland Sutton, all three of us would be going, that's not a good thing to do. If the offense is bad, you're screwed. But given the Eagles, I mean, they're going to score some points. We just don't know who's going to be. Typically, it's all of them. They all kind of get involved, and guys like Saquon and A.J. Brown are threats to score every week. So I'm comfortable with having both of them in my lineup. So don't be too
But
afraid of that.
if you're moving in on a stack at this point in the season, though, you better look hard at the bye week. Don't mess
Mhm.
around and take that. That could cost you a major spot in the playoffs
sure.
if you're not careful.
Especially with people, or excuse, with teams having week 14 buys. Like that's going to be a big hurdle for us this year. So we'll have to watch that. Let's jump to our next question here. This is a pretty good one. It says, being offered London and Brian Robinson for Cook and Brian Thomas Jr. Do I take the deal? Coach, you are a number one fan club for both London and Cook in this deal. So which side are you going to fall? I honestly have no idea. Usually I have a pretty good guess
Yeah,
where you go, but I don't know.
yeah, man. I just took a deep breath on this one. It's hard. Brian Thomas Jr. is the worst player in the deal right now, redraft wise. Like he's the worst player in the deal for me. Like I think Brian Robinson is going to come back and play really well. Um,
Dang
I mean,
right he
I
is.
just do. I do. London. Oh gosh, this is a hard one. I'm going London and Brian Robinson.
Tyler?
I have to agree there. I think B Rob being out for a few weeks and being hurt, I think that's probably why this trade came through. And if Trevor wasn't hurt, I may take the other side. But with all the uncertainty there, just give me London and B Rob.
I hate to make it a clean sweep, but I'm going to roll with them. Give me London and Brian Robinson. If this were Dynasty, then I would flip to the other side. But I don't think the difference between Brian Thomas and Drake London is really that much. So it really, in that end, comes down to Cook versus Brian Robinson. But we will carry on. We appreciate everyone who's in here right now. Please be sure to keep putting your questions in there. We will hit them all. Like we always do, please be sure to hit that like button. It helps us out. Give us a follow over on X at the FF Mediators. Subscribe to our YouTube at the FF Mediators. We're proud to be here on Face Off every single Wednesday night at 8:30, and we will continue on, fellas. So Jared on Facebook says, would you play Bateman, Pop Douglas, or Elijah Moore over Jennings or Waddle in PPR this week? Tyler, I'm going to let you answer this one first.
I do want to add on real quick, definitely about the super chats. I know we keep reiterating that. If you need to jump the line for any reason, do that. We'll answer your question first. As for this question though, uh, I would keep Jennings in my lineup regardless. I think he's proved to be, good enough in that offense, and I think Kyle Shanahan had some good things to say about him this past week. I would keep Jennings in. As for Waddle, I would probably play at least Bateman over him. Pop is a little bit of a stretch for me, but I could see why you would do that. And Elijah Moore, I'm just not comfortable enough with yet. He did get targets a bunch last, but out of those three names, I'd definitely play Bateman over Waddle this week.
Coach, what about you?
Yeah, I'm actually would hold on to what you've got, Jennings and Waddle. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about Bateman, Pop Douglas, or Elijah Moore really. So yeah, I'm just gonna hold.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to hold as well. I mean, it's not really a great matchup this week for Douglas. I mean, he had 9 targets 2 weeks ago, 5 targets last week. Like Tyler said, Jennings is playing very, very well. He's involved. He had 11 targets last week, 7 catches, 93 yards. So I just have a hard time moving off that. If I was going to start him over anybody, it might be Waddle. But I think Coach has kind of convinced me to give Waddle another week, which I know is a dangerous game to play, but I'm going to roll with Waddle in this situation. But let's
Question
move on to our next one. Yeah.
real quick. Do you, without looking, do either of you know where Bateman is in half PPR this year? Like what wide receiver rank he is,
I'm going to go 24.
Coach?
28.
Okay. He's actually 25, so Matt was right on it. I think he's been a little bit more consistent than people give him credit for. So
Then
I'm
years,
not
then years
saying,
past, right?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and we've
Yeah.
seen Lamar like throw it really.
Yeah, Lamar's playing well, man.
That quite a bit. Obviously, they have Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, all them. I don't think Bateman should be taken lightly. That's all I'm going to say. Not necessarily saying the Waddle call is wrong, but I think he's definitely an idea. Like, if you need depth on a team, I think Bateman would be a good play.
Yeah. So I think we had this question earlier, did we not, guys? CD Lamb for Amon Ra. Maybe I'm crazy and I'm making that up, but said they
We
completed the
talked
deal. Is
about
that
it.
a good deal? Um,
Well, I said
think
that if
for
you could
us,
go get, I think I said I brought up if you could go get Amon Ra for CD, then I definitely would do that. And
yeah,
kudos to
here we are.
Alessandro.
Hey, Coach manifested it. I don't know what happened, but it happened. So I think all three of us are going to take the Amon Ra side here. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but great pickup. I mean, that's a good deal. Amon Ra's playing fantastic football, despite people being mad at him, I guess. I don't know. But let's jump to Paul's question, guys. He says, hey, guys, is Josh Downs a must-sit now that Richardson is back at quarterback? Or is there any bit of hope? Interesting question. Downs is a great player, man. He looks awesome on film. Richardson is the inverse. He's got some of the attributes that you might look for a quarterback, and he's got a big arm, big stature. He can stay in the pocket, but unfortunately, he can't deliver an accurate ball right now. I mean, we'll have to see if he's got any improvement over the last few weeks where he's been the backup to Flacco. But Coach, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Is Downs a must sit for you?
I wouldn't say he's a must sit. I mean, it depends on what you've got, right? Must sit for who is the question. Like Downs is really good. Regardless of whether Richardson is good or not, someone has to get the ball. And I just tend to think that'll be Downs. But so I don't know if he's a must sit. Depends on like I said, who you're going to play over him.
I mean, before I ask you, Tyler, I feel like I do need to say that Josh Downs' two best weeks came when Anthony Richardson played. I know there's a lot of talk out there about how it's the inverse, but his 18-point game and his 20-point game both came with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. So there might be something there. I mean, no doubt Flacco was targeting him more and having him involved, but there's something to be said for Richardson giving Downs his two best weeks on the season. So I would not say he's a must sit. I mean, Downs is that good of a player in my eyes. But Tyler, what do you think?
Listen, as a Colts fan, I've got to watch these games on Sunday Ticket, and it's unbelievable how much. Even though we paid Michael Pittman, Josh Downs is the wide receiver one, regardless of who the quarterback is. Um, Whenever A. Rich played last year, his go-to guy was Josh Downs. I've said that from the get-go. I've never been afraid of Josh Downs with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Even with Flacco, I thought maybe more target volume, great. Now, granted, one of those, I think it was the 20-point week, he did have a huge touchdown where there was like nobody on his half of the field at all. It was just a busted coverage. But I think that could happen any given play with A. Rich at quarterback. So I don't think he's a must sit at all. I actually think you could start him just as well as you could last week. So I'd keep Josh Downs in your lineup unless you have, like a Jennings or somebody, like we said. Who are you sitting him for at that point? But I think he's a good play.
Great point. While I've been very critical of Richardson and so is Coach, I don't think we're going to sit Josh Downs just for anybody. I mean, it's definitely going to pin who's on your bench to play instead of him. But for me, Josh Downs is currently a top 24 wide receiver in Dynasty, so that's something that matters to me. So I would certainly not bench him just because. And like I said, I don't believe in Anthony Richardson at all. So take that for what it's worth. But let's jump to our next question, guys. And this is an interesting one. Preseason, we probably never would have believed this is true. Travis Kelce and Cedric Tillman for Marvin Harrison Jr. and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, that's exactly why you guys are in here to ask us about Cedric Tillman. I mean, that's who would have thought. But here we are. Coach, I think that you've been very critical of Marvin Harrison Jr. so far this season. Are you comfortable moving Kelce and Tillman for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Hawk, or is that still just a wait and see for you?
Still just a wait and see for me. Yeah, I am down on Harrison. Absolutely. Can't deny that at all. Tillman's been ascending. Yeah, it's still just it's a wait and see for me.
What about you, Tyler?
I think it's close. I don't necessarily think you can go wrong with either one. Hawk has looked good in his return in weeks with Sam Darnold. Unless he starts seeing ghosts again, then I think it's a toss up for whoever you prefer. If you want Marvin Harrison and Hawk because you think Marvin's upside's higher, go for it. Whoever you pick, you've got an interception prone quarterback throwing him the ball between Cedric Tillman or TJ Hawkinson. So take your pick. Who do you think throws more and go the other way? So
I mean, it's crazy to sit here and say, but I think I'm going to keep Tillman and Kelce. I mean, Kelce is coming off 3 straight double-digit games, 3 straight games with over 10 targets. I mean, he had 12 targets, 16 targets, and 12 targets again. So he's been heavily involved. He's finally producing some points for us. Tillman, on the other hand, 12 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets, really involved. So I just have a hard time moving Tillman or Kelce right now while Harrison, yes, is certainly a highly touted player and a very good player, and I think he's going to have a bright future in the league, whether he's going to have that elite upside that a lot of people thought, or maybe more a conservative upside like Coach says, where he thinks he's going to be an okay wide receiver 2 or, a standard wide receiver 1, nothing to be touted about. Hawkinson, I want to give him a little bit more time to work into the lineup. Like Tyler said, he looked good last week. No denying that. But I think for me, I'm going to hold Kelce and Tillman in this situation for a question I never thought I'd answer. But let's jump to our next one. Nelson says, hey, guys, my team is St. Brown, Puka, CD, Ladd, Hopkins, Jennings as my wide receiver. For running backs, he's got Kamara, Connor, Chase Brown, and Estime. With Hawkinson as his tight end, should I be looking to make any moves? Lamar is his QB. Tyler, is there any moves that you'd be making with this lineup?
So for me, I think it depends on how many you have to start, right? I mean, I like your wide receiver room a lot, actually. If you wanted to move off CD down to kind of like what we said earlier, like an Amon Ra or something like that, or London, if you could, like I would do that. If you wanted to move off Hopkins, maybe. Your running back room is a little thin. I mean, you do have Kamara and Connor. I don't think James Conner's played a full season at running back in the last like 8 years. So, I do think
Until
maybe if you
now.
wanted to, and maybe we'll see. I do think if you wanted to bolster your running back room a little bit, I wouldn't hate that. And then I think Hawk is okay as your tight end. I would like to know who he had as his tight end before Hawk came back. And then your quarterback's Lamar. You don't have to deal with that. So if you want to do anything, I'd probably upgrade the running back room. Otherwise, I like it.
I think for me, I would be targeting my running back room like Tyler said. My thoughts immediately go to, can I turn Juwan Jennings and Chase Brown into an upgrade? That's where I would go. A lot of people like Juwan Jennings. He's played well, lots of volume. Chase Brown, I'm not the biggest believer on, his production as a running back. I think he's really good out of the backfield. But I think Herbert's going to play at least some. There was news about Leonard Fournette being with the team. Not that that means Fournette's going to play a lot, but I think it at least exposes the problem that the Bengals have absolutely positively no rush game. They cannot run on anybody. They can throw all over the place because, Jamar Chase is that good and Burrow is that good. Hopefully T gets back and helps our fantasy teams. But for me, I have concerns about Chase Brown, especially in Dynasty. And I just want to throw this up on the screen really quickly. Looking at the running backs, here's Chase Brown on Keep Trade Cut in Dynasty. There's several names here that I'd rather have over him. You know, Jonathan Brooks, Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy, Brian Robinson, Chuba Hubbard, Swift. Those are all names that I'd prefer to have over Chase Brown. But that's just me. I mean, what's your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, well, when I looked at his team first, before I get into that, when I looked at his team, I thought running back, but I also thought, is there another guy I can add to my tight end room that makes my other flex options, more viable? Like I think you could move a Hopkins for a quality tight end, but before you could get a high quality running back, for instance. Like, I don't know, I may think about it in a different way. But that's just my thinking. Just something I want to add to the running back talk.
I think it's fair.
So I don't know.
All right. Well,
I tend to
go ahead, Tyler.
I tend to think you could probably get a decent running back for Hopkins, especially if somebody needs a wide receiver. I mean, it's obviously going to depend on who they have. I mean, I don't think you're getting anybody crazy at that price, but if you could just get a start, could you get a Chuba for Hopkins? Do you think? I don't know. Maybe. You know, um,
Maybe. Yeah.
it,
Depends how bad
it's
they need a
close.
receiver.
Exactly. So, and another thing too, as far as the Chase Brown concerns, me and Matt have talked about this all week, guys. Just so you know, we went back and forth. Um, I think Chase Brown. I don't think he has any competition. I don't care if Leonard Fournette's there. He's like 29, 30 years old. I'm not worried about that. I actually don't even think he made the team. If I'm not mistaken, I thought I heard something about them trying out Gary Brightwell too. And if that's who they add, I'm definitely not worried about it. Zach Moss is out. I would take Chase Brown being the workhorse there in the Bengals offense um, versus most others, probably. I mean, it would depend on what you could get, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems like rest of the season he's gonna be there.
Yeah. I
Well,
can't deny his involvement, but I do think in dynasty mindset, like he just doesn't seem to have the vision to me that I think they want him to have. But we'll just have to see. That's more of a long-term play from me. But go ahead, Coach.
it just seems they're working really hard to find another running back. Khalil Herbert obviously gets the ball and fumbles right off the bat. The concern with Chase Brown is he can't block. Right, he's really bad in pass pro. They have to take him out on 3rd and long because the dude can't block at all. So there is room there for a guy that could be that 3rd down dude. But I don't. I mean, I don't have the concerns Matt has with Chase Brown. So
Hey, we'll see. We'll talk about it next year.
I'm on Tyler's side here.
Let's go.
That's fine. I'll be the lone wolf. But let's jump to zero skills question here. Me too. Zero skills over here. I have a clear path to a bench spot. Who do I drop? Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Deontay Johnson, or Xavier Legette? Man, I'm curious if you're still in here, zero skills. Did you play MVS this past week? I had one lineup where I had him in there. I had him in DFS, so that was fun too. But I think that's probably the name I would drop. I'm not ready to drop Deontay Johnson. Legette is a little bit of a tougher question. I mean, banking on the Panthers offense. But Tyler, out of this group, which name are you dropping?
I'm dropping Deontay, and it's not even really close for me, honestly. I mean, MVS is going to be necessary the rest of the season for me. If you have Rashid gone, you also have Olave out for who knows how long. So I think MVS, although he may be a boomer bust play, I think he's going to be needed. Um, we've saw we've seen Derek Carr really like to throw the deep ball. Xavier Legette's the one for the Panthers, unless Grandpa Adam Thielen comes back and decides to make another run at it. And then Deontay, I think there's just too many options there. So I would plant the landmine of Deontay on waivers and have somebody else pick him up and play him and hope they get a zero. So
There's a guy in this group that would pick him up.
I know there is.
Matt's the president of the Deontay Johnson fan club. But
Hey,
I,
40% target share. 40% target share. Yes, it was only 5 snaps and 2 targets, but that doesn't matter.
I would probably drop Xavier Legette if it's. I mean, if we're talking redraft, I would probably drop Xavier Legette. Like I like Legette moving forward in his career. I don't like the Panthers at all right now, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, fair. It's tough no matter what here. Just a gross situation to be all around for a variety of different reasons. But let's jump to our next question from Eternal. It says, should I snag Adonai Mitchell up and drop either Xavier Worthy or Tank Bigsby? Tank was a hot commodity not too long ago where everyone was trying to pick him up. It's certainly slowed down. Last 2 weeks, he's been absolutely worthless to your fantasy team. Xavier Worthy, same situation, not really adding anything. Coach, would you drop either one of these players to go and get a guy like A.D. Mitchell?
A.D. Mitchell had a good week last week, right? Well, here comes the new quarterback. It's only I mean, I'm not running out making huge. I'm not running out making huge changes on my roster to get A.D. Mitchell, unless that's where I'm at. I would hold Worthy or Bigsby myself.
Yeah, Mitchell is a player who's just dominated man coverage. I believe he's one of the highest ranked wide receivers against man coverage. But nonetheless, this week has been the absolutely only week that he's been useful. He had 10 points against Buffalo, 6 catches for 71 yards. Tyler, are you comfortable dropping either one of those guys for Mitchell?
If I was going to drop one, it would be Xavier Worthy, but I think A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy are a toss up for the same player, except one has the better quarterback. So I'd probably just keep Xavier. And as much as I'm a Colts fan and would love for AD to be great, I'm going to wait and see with that approach first.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. It's kind of the same player, but one of them has the best quarterback who's not been playing well, and the other one has a second-year quarterback who's been playing poorly. So it's a tough decision to make, but I'm going to keep Worthy and probably. I mean, I might drop Tank if Tank's like my running back 4 or 5, then okay, take him. But if Tank's my RB3 and I'm banking on that, then it's a little bit scarier. I don't know. That's just me. But let's jump to our next question.
What if I told you that Trey Tucker had more targets on the season than Xavier Worthy?
I would believe you. I mean, Worthy has just been really, really disappointing. I mean, he's wide receiver 50 on the year. He only has 20 catches. I mean, he does have the little bit of a rushing upside because they use him in that facet sometimes, but for the most part, I mean, it's tough to predict. It's really tough to predict.
I mean, Kelsey has double the target share of everybody else on that team.
Yeah, I mean,
but isn't
the offense just runs through him? Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, isn't that what we expect out of the Chiefs, though? Is Kelsey to be the number one target?
But that also wasn't. Rashee Rice was looking like the guy before his injury, too.
Well, yeah. The injury obviously changed the offense. I mean, if Rice is still playing, I don't think we have a question that he's the number one target. But I'm saying since the injuries went down, and in previous years, we've watched Travis Kelce do it over and over and over again. So,
well, I actually think oddly enough, I think the Rice injury has hurt Worthy's value a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that's great. I mean, if anything, what we're seeing from the Chiefs is that Rashee Rice is that important. Rice is that good of a player, and they miss him. They really do, and they should. I mean, he's a really, really good player. But we'll have to see how quick he can come back next year. And then obviously we're going to have the whole suspension thing that we're going to get to talk about way too much next season. But that's a problem for next season. So let's jump to our next question here. It says, who should I be trying to trade ETN for? My friend, I don't think that there is an answer to this question because you got to have a buyer. And right now the market is cold. I have inquired on a few teams where I have ETN and I've gotten no responses. Very, very tough to move. So I'm not really sure you're going to be able to get something unless you're selling for pennies. So what I might do is just hope and pray that he can score a touchdown and then try and move him. But Tyler, do you have any disagreement there, or do you think you could move Travis Etienne for somebody?
No, I think you're pretty spot on in terms. I was trying to look at rankings to see kind of where you might
He's
could
40 on
start.
the year.
Oh, I know, but I'm trying to see where you may even get a conversation at trying to trade for for somebody. I think maybe one of Coach's favorites that you could try to go after is Alexander Madison, but I don't even know that you can do that. So, um, good
Let's
luck
talk.
there.
So if this is dynasty, I would try to move him for a second myself. Like I would I would see if someone would give me a second round pick for him.
I really don't know if you can get that. Like I would.
I
That's
think that's
tough,
his
man.
value though. I think that's his value. Like
I
I
think
think
you're spot
ETN's going to
on.
have
Yes,
value in the future. In the future, he's going to have value. Now, I don't know if he has much value the rest of the way, but in the future, he's going to have some value.
I mean, I pulled up Keep Trade Cut just to see. I think personally I would value him at a second as well, but just looking at Keep Trade Cut, he's running back 27. Like he's
But
tanked, man.
But who do they have comparable?
Guys
What's an
around
even
him.
trade with Travis Etienne?
Let me look. But guys around him are Trey Benson, Ramondre Stevenson.
Najee.
I mean, Najee. Adjacent value for Travis Etienne would be Khalil Shakir, Sam Darnold, which I don't think that's happening. Evan Ingram, Ramondre Stevenson, Tank Bigsby. I mean, it's crazy how far his value has fallen. I mean, the start of this season, he was running back 8. So
Evan Ingram would be interesting. Trevor comes back. Maybe Ingram has a good finish to the year. Redraft for you, possibly. Neither one are like, I don't feel great about either guy. But I could see a
I
world where
would
Trevor
say
comes back and Ingram helps you.
I would say you brought up Ramondre. If I could get Ramondre, I'd probably do it. He just signed a contract. Nobody's competing for his job there. Just stability at that point. I would go get Ramondre if I could.
yeah, I think I'd take Ramondre too. Coach, just to add to your point there about Evan Ingram, despite this being a Mac Jones week, 8 targets. The volume's there. I mean, they got to throw the ball to someone, and he's competing with Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. So,
Hey,
let's jump
Matt,
to
are you Matt?
yeah,
Wait, are you standing up right now?
I am.
Oh my gosh!
What do you mean?
Is there a I mean, what is going on here?
It's a standing desk, dude. It moves up and down. It's fantastic. Best thing I've ever bought on Amazon.
Only a lawyer.
Hey, what can I say? It's a nice desk, bro. You're just jealous. Enjoy sitting down. All right.
I am.
Should read Sauce's question here. Redraft, by the way, reasonable target to sell Lamb.
Yeah, we already answered that one.
Yeah, we did. Okay, yeah, we did. So if you're
I'm
still here,
just
Sauce,
saying-
and you missed it, go ahead.
I'm just saying we answered his question earlier, but I think we've also, said who we're trying to sell Lamb for if you can get him. I think we've given you like what do we say, Amon-Ra, London, that kind of tier. I think that's where you go.
Yeah. That's going to do it. So let's jump to Gabe's question over on X. Is Amon-Ra for Justin Jefferson? Wow. I think I would take Jefferson. I mean, he's just the best player in the game to the three of us. So we talk about it all the time, but that's no disrespect to Amon-Ra. He does add one extra thing here, guys. He says, or who should I trade Amon-Ra for? He needs a running back and a solid wide receiver. I mean, it's going to be tough if you're moving Amon-Ra for a solid wide receiver and a running back. But if I was doing that, it'd be something like Pickens and Chase Brown, or Pickens and
Chuba.
Trying to think of a Chuba. Yeah, that's a great example right there. Coach, do you have any other names that come to mind for you with this deal?
No, I mean, I agree with everything you guys just said. Like, on a side note, who do you guys know who wide receiver 1 is on the season?
Chase.
Without looking, don't
Chase,
look, don't
yeah.
look.
No, it would be
I'm not looking
Chase.
it up. I think it'd be Chase, wide
He
receiver
just-
2.
Yeah, he scored 55 points, and he's been playing all year, so I would say it's Chase.
Yep. And then who leads in targets?
Garrett Wilson.
Wandale Robinson, 700 targets for 33 yards.
There you go. That's what he wanted to hear.
That's my other boy. Yes.
Who leads into? I know it was Garrett Wilson.
Wandale does have 84 targets. He has 3 targets less than Jamar Chase, just for the record there too. Though. That's
Is,
crazy.
And only 100 fantasy points less, at least.
Who leads in
yeah,
touchdowns? Do you see that? I'm guessing still Chase, maybe.
Chase.
Do what?
Yeah.
Chase.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Chase has more targets?
Touchdowns.
No,
Oh, touchdowns. Oh.
Chase. Garrett Wilson has the most targets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's like wide receiver 3.
Mm-hmm. Off the targets, baby.
All right, guys. Well, we've got a ton of more questions to get to. We've got about 20 minutes left on our stream, so let's start to rapid fire these a little bit faster, and we will see how far we get. Definitely try and answer them all. But Ryan says, redraft PPR, would you send Chase and Devonta Smith for JJ and James Cook? Myself, man, that is a tough-ass question. Coach,
So much for
Tyler,
rapid fire.
either of you have an answer? Yeah, I'm really torn.
I'd
think
take Chase and Smith. Unless you need
I take Chase and Smith unless you desperately need a running back.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right answer. Tyler, Mr. Magic asks, is there still hope with Breece Hall?
Yes, there is. He's
Coach?
still the lead running back. So
A little bit.
Yep. I think there's hope. You just got to manage expectations. He's not going to be what we want him to be, but I think he's still an RB2, maybe back-end RB1 week to week, so that's fine. Jamar and JT or Amon-Ra and Saquon, Coach?
Amon-Ra and Saquon.
I was going to
Agreed.
say, that one's not hard. Yep.
Yeah, that's Jamar's good, but Saquon's really dang good too. So let's go to our next question. Herbert or Stroud? Also get rid of Tyreek. Tyler.
Wow.
This season, I'd probably take Herbert at this point. Getting rid of Tyreek, I don't know what you're going to get out of him. You might have to wait for a boom week, but you could try it.
Yeah, I'm going to take the flip. I'll take Stroud. Nico's coming back, and I think Nico's a dog. Add that with Tank Dell, who's playing a little bit better, not what we want him to be, but give me the Texans. And as for Tyreek, we've said it a couple times in this show so far, we'd probably be selling, but not just moving for anything. You might just have to monitor the offers and see what's there. Any difference there, Coach?
Nope. Stroud, hold on, Tyreek.
All right. Is Mike Williams playable? What about MVS? Coach, can you play Mike Williams?
No, not playing Mike Williams. MVS is playable in your flex if you need one, yes.
Yep. Tyler, in agreement? I'm going to avoid playing MVS if I have to, but, I mean, for me, Mike Williams, it was just the one play, the deep ball, that got him the points against Washington, but I can't talk about that anymore. It makes me sick.
He also mentioned something. He mentioned something about Juju too, and him coming back. I wouldn't even put Juju in until you see any resemblance of a player that can do anything. So if you're going to flex anybody out of that, it's MVS.
I agree. I missed the Juju part there. My bad. But I think you're completely right there. All right. Trade Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and Brock Bowers for Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, and Mark Andrews. Tyler, would you do this trade?
No. Nope.
I think the star power is on the far side. Although CMC is enticing, Barkley is playing at a high level, Brown's playing at a high level, and Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the game.
Yep.
All right, let's jump to our next question. Coach, would you trade Saquon and Debo for Christian McCaffrey and Scary Terry?
No. I want Saquon and Debo.
Tyler?
No, Saquon's proved it enough this year. I've not seen it from CMC yet, so.
Yeah, I think CMC is really good, but Saquon again playing at a high level. Coach,
Yeah, and
you got an extra point there.
I'm still old school in this. Those elite running backs matter. Like those guys matter because only so many people don't have those. Like
Nope.
there are more wide receivers to go around, and only a few guys in your league have the elite running backs.
And
Yeah,
you're at a
and
disadvantage every time you play one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Saquon's a guy that can win you a week right now. All right, Jake Ring says, who's a running back that's worth letting go of? Hunt when I have Pacheco as well. Tyler, is there a certain name out there that you'd be willing to drop Hunt for if you have Pacheco? Now, obviously, it's going to depend on who's on your waivers, so it's a little bit tougher of a question for us to answer without knowing. But is there a name that you like at all?
Honestly, no. The highest running back that I would even consider would be Tyler Algier, and I think
Yeah.
I'd still rather have Hunt, the better offense. So
My mind went to Ray Davis. I mean, maybe if you just
Yeah.
want to pick up another handcuff for another team, but I mean, it's just kind of a shot in the dark without knowing who's on your waivers.
Yeah, and for me, I'd rather have the handcuff of the guy I have.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, yep.
Yeah. As we approach the playoffs, I think that's matter. But Mr. Wumbo's in here. Welcome back, Mr. Wumbo. Thanks for being here.
Right.
Coach, he says, yeah, to the person that has Hopkins, his value seems pretty high. I ended up trading Hopkins plus Pollard plus Spears for Amon Ra. That's a heck of a deal. Let's jump to Trevor's question here. It says, I got offered Nico Collins, Aaron Jones, Devonta Smith, and I give DK, K9, Jaden Reed. I currently have DK, Jaden Reed, T, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd, running back Kamara, K9, Ramondre, and Pacheco. Coach, can you break this down for us? Would you be taking Nico and Aaron Jones and Devonta Smith to give up DK, Kenneth Walker, and Jaden Reed?
And these are the kind of trades that keep you up at night.
For
Like,
sure.
there's a lot here. There's a lot here, and it's awesome. But this is that one when you do it, the people in your league go, "Oh, what just happened?"
Yeah, whoa, step back. You got to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just say the difference here is if you believe in Aaron Jones or Kenneth Walker the most? Because I think that's the thing. The delta between Nico and Devontae and DK and Jaden Reed, they're probably about similar. Like you're splitting hairs at that point. So it's who do you think is going to finish better, Aaron Jones or K9? The only reason that I tend to lean on the keep the players you have is because you also have T. Higgins not playing, Brian Thomas, who is dealing with Trevor Lawrence being out, and then Ladd. So I tend to like the stability if you can do it. I don't know though.
If you really like the instability of T. Higgins, then go get Kenneth Walker. You can have both of the most inconsistent players in the entire NFL.
Yeah, it's funny because I called Coach today before we got on the stream, and I was saying that Kenneth Walker is just running back T. Higgins. Like he plays really well, and then just suddenly he's hurt, and just he's a do not participate at practice. So very frustrating to own in fantasy football, but they're definitely great players when they play. For me, I'm going to go Nico and Aaron Jones here. Like I think Aaron Jones is really dang good. I really believe in Nico and Devonta Smith. Also, if you give up DK and Kenneth Walker, you're separating yourself from the Seahawks offense because right now you're kind of hamstrung by having both of them in your lineup. Now, obviously, I like Jaden Reed, so certainly I want to get compensated if I'm going to move a guy like that. And I think Devonta Smith is an okay substitute in that situation. I think they're fairly similar players. But let's jump on to our next question, guys. Jared on Facebook says PPR tight end Jonnu Smith, Knox if Kincaid is out, Schultz or Disley this week. Tyler, who we going with?
Jonnu. He's had the targets.
Yeah, and it seems like they're designing them for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy. I agree.
I mean, I'm not messing with Schultz or any of them either. Like that. Those are
yeah.
names that I don't even.
I don't want to get stuck with that. I mean, it just feels like goose egg. At least I know Jonnu Smith is going to get 2 or 3 screens. Pete Nova says, don't forget to like the show. The boys are putting in the work. Thank you, Pete. Like Pete said, everyone, please hit that like. And then he adds with a standing desk. See, Pete approves it, Coach. Pete's cool with it.
He's laughing at you. He's laughing at you.
Pete,
That's why all the
Pete would
extra E's
never
were on it.
laugh at me.
He was just trying to get a better angle so the whole world wouldn't notice his bald head.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's losing up there. You see it. It's falling out. I'm old. I'm tired, and mainly I'm tired of dealing with Coach. So if anybody wants to be his caretaker, let me know. You can have him.
I got the white hair,
All right.
the gray hair.
Yeah, you'll be you're looking like a guy who comes every December 25th. But anyways, let's move on here. Trade London for Debo, and would you trade Dell for Devonta Smith, Coach?
Oh, trade London for Debo? No way. No.
No way. I
Keep
agree.
Drake London all day. Trade Dell for Devontae Smith? Absolutely.
Yep.
Not even close.
Yeah, those are smash accepts. Move on for me. So wouldn't do too much there. Mr. Wumbo adds to his trade earlier. He says, just trying to get rid of my headache of Pollard, figuring out if he's going to be more of him or Spears every single week. Don't blame me there. I mean, that's been a headache every single week. Hopkins should be good, but still spooked with him having Kelsey, Worthy, and Juju. I don't think you're wrong there, my friend. Certainly something to keep in mind. Let's jump to our next question, guys. It says, my current starting lineup is Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Mark Andrews, Ramondre Stevenson, benches, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, Tucker Kraft, and Kyler Murray. The next part of the question is, should I trade Josh Jacobs for CeeDee Lamb? And if I did, I could move Chubb into Jacobs' spot. Not sure if it's worth it with Dak being out for the season, but trying to upgrade from Cooper. I mean, it's tough because your running back room, it's thin between Jacobs, Najee Harris, and Ramondre. Are you guys comfortable with moving Jacobs for CeeDee Lamb with this lineup? Tyler, I'll start with you.
Can you even get CD for Josh Jacobs? If that's a standing offer, I mean, I don't know. I sat here and shook my head at first. The more I think about it, though, I mean, you don't have to put Chubb in Jacobs' spot. You could use Ramondre. Um, but like Matt said, your running back room is thin, man. Like trading off a running back right now seems kind of tough. If anything, I would try getting off of DJ Moore. That's my advice. If you can get any kind of wide receiver depth off of that, that's what I would do.
Coach, anything to add to that?
Nah, I'm with Tyler.
All right. Well, then we'll move on. Zach says he's got one for us, guys. He says, I have five really good RBs, CMC, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Chase Brown, and Chuba Hubbard. Who should I try and trade away? Any good buy low wide receiver ones I can maybe go after? Coach, this one goes to you. Who are we moving?
I'm moving Kenneth Walker or Chase Brown in that group. If I'm gonna move one, it's those guys. Just because Walker would make my beard get grayer than it already is.
Tough to do.
Buy low wide
really
receiver.
Tough.
Buy low wide receiver ones. Like maybe a Walker for Debo, something like that.
I like an idea like that. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I mean, the only flip to that is
you don't need all those running backs.
Yeah,
you just don't need all those running backs, Like,
and for me right now, with how the teams are playing, I'm plugging in CMC and I'm plugging in James Cook, and then it's between Chuba, Brown, and Walker. And I think Walker has the most value you can move, while still having good depth between Chase Brown and Chuba. I mean, despite all the critique I have of Chase Brown, I don't deny when you get 10 targets a game, that's valuable.
mm-hmm.
Tyler, any wide receiver come to mind for you that you'd go get? Sorry, go ahead, Coach. Finish your point.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say, can you move a Kenneth Walker for somebody like Jaden Reed? Can you do that? If a guy needs a running back bad? Like, to me, you've got so many good running backs. Like, somebody's short a running back in your league bad.
Yeah, you might be able to.
The three names that I tend to come up with that we've kind of already talked about a little bit. One would be Cortland Sutton, buy low wide receiver one. He gets the targets. Two, George Pickens, if you can go get him. And then three, this one's a little more risky, but going and trying to get DK, coming off the injury and all that. That would be my three that I would go look at.
I love all three of those names, to be honest. I'd
Yeah,
rather have them
yeah.
this year. All right, let's jump to Mr. Wumbo here. It says we start 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 1 flex here. Wide receivers will be Chase, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, McConkey, Tillman, and Leggett. Running backs will be Bijan, Hunt, Algier, Pacheco, and Warren. His tight ends are McBride and Joku. His quarterbacks Josh Allen. Now that is a unit, guys. I mean, do you see any weakness in this team? I mean, maybe the running back position, but if Pacheco comes back, you're going to be reinforced there. So you might be able to move a guy like Tillman or Leggett if you really need a running back.
You need a running back here. Like, I like when Pacheco comes back, you're gonna feel really good, but the rest of the guys are just the backups. So I try to get one more running back there.
He had, should I try and do some sort of 2 wide receivers for a running back? I own Algier and Pacheco. Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot in with what we're talking about here of, how can you add some depth there? And I think those are the names that I'd probably try and look at doing some sort of trade with. Now, you could move one of the bigger guys like Chase or Amon-Ra, but at this point, I want them for the playoffs. So moving a guy like Devonta Smith might be a little bit better. But Tyler, I've got a question for you, and it comes from Hunter Cruz. Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua? Who are you taking the rest of the season?
I would go Puka just because of the youth there. I mean, nothing. He's had the injury, but I'll take Puka regardless.
And he's willing to fight out there on the field. Guy's just a warrior out there. Coach, any difference there for you, Puka or Cooper Kupp?
I'd take Puka, but I like them both. Like, I really do. Like, I feel good about either guy.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, we've got about 7 more questions here, so we'll speed through these ones before we finish the show. We appreciate everyone that's here, so if you're still here, please be sure to hit that like button. Give us a follow over on X at the FF Media Agents and subscribe to our YouTube. It helps us out so much. We appreciate everyone who's been here and asking questions. We love doing this on Wednesdays. But Jonathan asked, Coach, what's up, guys? 1 wide receiver, 1 flex between Pearsall, JSN, Adams, full PPR. Pearsall? Full PPR, 1 point for first down, starting Wilson and Zay Flowers already. Would you make any change to that lineup with Wilson and Zay Flowers in there, knowing you get an extra point for a first down?
Well, I just say my order is JSN, Pearsall, Adams.
Okay.
Pearsall is coming. What about, watch it, boys. Pearsall's on the rise.
There we go. Tyler, what about you in that situation?
I think Pearsall is probably last for me. JSN would be the first priority there. Adams, if he's starting Garrett Wilson, that kind of self-faltering there, but I'd put him second just because of the connection. Pearsall, I'll wait and see another week, especially with Jennings and Debo there.
Boo.
Yep, I agree. Hey, y'all, I have Bijan, A-Chain, Chase Brown, Brian Robinson Jr., and Jordan Mason. Given that I have Mason, could I and should I trade B-Rob and Chase Brown for CMC? I mean, if I could do that deal, I'm certainly doing it because having Bijan, A-Chain, and CMC is a playoff winning team, knowing I have Jordan Mason. So I'd absolutely do that. Tyler shaking his head. He would do that. I think Coach would do that too. But yeah, I mean, CMC would be huge this lineup, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, having like you said, Bijan and Achane, I'd get the 3 studs.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to our next question here. Tyler says, also need 1 wide receiver and 1 flex between Juwan Jennings, Tillman, McConkey, Ridley, Walker, full PPR. So choose 1 wide receiver and choose 1 flex.
I'd go Jennings as the wide receiver, probably. Well, depending on matchups and all that. Obviously, no Thursday night flex spots. I don't think any of them are. But Jennings would be one of my guys. The rest of them, I think it's a toss-up. You can pick any of those. If I had to pick, it's either going to be Walker if he plays or probably Cedric Tillman.
I think I'm going to go Ridley and Tillman in this situation, just because they're getting the volume. Coach shakes his head, yes. Ridley's been a guy
tons of targets all of a sudden. As soon as he complained, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Matt says that all the time, and he's right. As soon as he raised Cain about not getting enough targets, they've just been throwing it to him only, pretty much.
I would just
Yeah,
rather
last
have
week 9
Purdy.
targets, 25 points. Yeah, I mean
I'd
that's
rather have-
fair.
Week before
I mean-
that, it was like 12, 13 targets.
I mean, Jennings just came off of
Yeah,
an 11
so
target week. So that's where I'm like, if you're going to give him that many targets with Purdy versus I have to sit here and watch Mayo Levis go for it, then yeah, no, I'm good.
So since the week that Coach is talking about where he had almost no involvement, um, Calvin Ridley, 7 points, 79% of the snaps, 9 targets. Next week he had 23 points, 79% of the snaps, 15 targets. Week after that, 13 points, 94% of the snaps, 8 targets. Last week, 25 points, 93% of the snaps, 9 targets. He's just involved, and I'm going to try and get that if I can. Mr. Wombo says, I know the stars have to align for a team. Go ahead, Coach.
I was just going to say, if you're a contending team in Dynasty, you need to be offering seconds or thirds, late seconds, early thirds for Ridley everywhere.
Yeah, just to get a depth piece if you need it. I think that's certainly a good one to have. Wombo says he knows the stars have to align here for 2 wide receivers and an extra RB to give up. But if they do you think I should target a running back? Who would it be? Maybe Smith and Ladd and insert a random running back. So Smith and Ladd, does that get you to? I mean, it's tough to say a guy like Saquon because nobody's going to trade Saquon. That's the problem. You might be able to do CMC and then another player. I mean, would you guys be interested in that?
Yeah, if you're moving off a running back, yeah.
Coach?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Could you go get
mean,
Joe
that-
Mixon for that price?
I'm not sure I want to pay Devonta Smith and Ladd for Joe Mixon. I mean, that's
I'm
just
trying
tough.
to go
man.
down and see. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, can you get that? I'd go for Jahmyr Gibbs if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take Mixon if I needed it, knowing I have the depth. So that's probably a fair point, Tyler. I think that's a good point. All right, Coach, we've got a question for you because I say it's for you. Bench 1, Chase Brown, Aaron Jones, Pickens, or Terry McLaurin?
Ooh, Chase Brown. I'd
Brown for
rather
me.
play them all, but Chase Brown.
You can't. You only get 3. Sorry, rules are rules. All right, Frenzy Fantasy, thanks for being here. You've been here every single week. We appreciate you, my friend. He says, trade Amon-Ra, Connor, and Addison for Saquon and Tyreek. Tyler, how do you feel about this deal? Tyler Shakes said no.
Not even close.
Yeah, I agree. No, while we all want Saquon, Connor's playing well, Amon-Ra's playing well, Addison is just a depth piece for your team. So I'm going to hold on to those guys if I can over Tyreek and Saquon. Coach, any difference for you?
Nope, I'm with you.
And I do think I should add lots of Amon-Ra questions tonight. So maybe we need to look into trying to trade for Amon-Ra. I mean, this is interesting. D Money says Najee, Esme, or ETN for my RB2. A lot of buys this week. Coach, who you picking?
Najee.
Najee, Tyler.
Yeah, who did the Broncos play? Do we know?
Did Najee just coming off 21 carries last week? He got 21 carries.
He is, but he banged up his ankle, so that's something to watch to see if he's going to play. The Broncos have the Falcons this week, Tyler. I'm going to play Najee, watching the injury report.
Yeah, exactly. If he doesn't play, I'd play Estime. Estime has sneakily started leading that running back room in in carries and stuff though. So watch out for that.
I'm with Tyler there. Starting Najee, barring an injury, I'm gonna play ETN there, or excuse me, Estime. Let's jump to our question here: Daniels or Joe Burrow? The answer, my friend, Daniels. Tyler, any different?
Nope.
Burrow.
Coach? Ooh,
Burrow.
Jared says Jefferson, Madison, or Cup and Cook PPR redraft. Coach, who you picking?
That's a tough one.
That's the first one with Jefferson that's been close for me.
Cup and Cook.
I think I lean Cup and Cook too.
I think so as well.
All right.
I think he's just that much better than Madison.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Which wide receiver should I target in a package with D Hop and Waddle? Tyler, is there a name out there that you'd move for? I mean, it's going to have to be probably a wide receiver 2 level guy, is where my head goes. I mean, just thinking about names.
What about, see, for that price, I'm trying to go. Can you go get like Malik Neighbors or Devontae Smith or something like that? That's where I would shoot. Or Zay
Can
Flowers,
you get
maybe.
a can you get a guy like, is London too high? Probably a little bit too high with that group.
Probably.
Yeah, I think that's right. Any names for you, Coach, that stick out?
Man, that's tough.
Here,
I mean, that's a tough
I'll give you some
sell for me.
context.
Like,
He has Evans, Cup, Debo, Waddle, D Hop. Team with Amon Ra needs wide receivers. Which two should I send that he would accept? To be honest, my friend, I don't think he's going to take any 2 names from this list, unless it's maybe Cup and Debo. I mean, that's just tough because Evans is targeting the week 12 return. So you're going to have to already convince that manager to wait 2 more weeks. Waddle's been not very helpful for your team. And
I mean, you'd have to take a big swing. You'd have to take a big swing like Cup. You're going to have to include Cup in that deal to have any kind of chance, to me. Cup and D Hop, and just throw it out there and see what happens.
Yep. I think so too. 3 more here. Nelson, you did not get skipped, my friend. We are still here. It's out of order for me. It's different order than you might see, so apologies there. So St. Brown and 2 running backs, Connor and Kamara. CD is usually my flex. Chase Brown on the bench, along with Ladd, Hopkins, Jennings, Kincaid. Tight end before was Hawkinson. Estime and Mason. I'm not sure what the question is, though, unless I missed it here. So if you're still in here, Nelson, throw the question in and we'll hit these other 2.
Go up, right up above it. It's a redraft league. I start 2 wide receivers, Puka, St. Brown.
Okay. Well, is there – I still don't see a question to go with it. So
I think
if you're here, Nelson, throw the question in there. Go ahead, Tyler.
I think it's the flex spot, I think is what he's asking, because he says CD is usually his flex. So I guess his question, and maybe I'm wrong, would be,
I think you're right. Yeah.
should he flex anybody other than CD? Would you flex Chase Brown, Ladd, Hopkins, or Jennings before?
Yeah. He says, what's a good move to make with this team?
Oh, okay.
I mean, looking at the bench, I might try and move a guy like Jennings or Hopkins, knowing that you have St. Brown and Puka, which is 2 pretty strong wide receivers. That gives you a little bit of flexibility in my eyes to go and add some running back depth. What'd you say, Coach?
No, I'm saying he has CD too. Is what I'm assuming. He says CD is usually his flex.
I mean, I think that CD is going to be an okay flex. You can also play matchups with Ladd, who's playing pretty good football right now. And then if you move a guy like Jennings or Hopkins, that I think you can add a running back to bolster your bench with Chase Brown. That's probably what I would do. I mean, he has Estime and Mason, but I don't know. Is there a name, Coach, that sticks out to you?
No, I mean, I really like what he's got going. I mean, I feel pretty good about that myself. Like, really like the running backs. No, I mean, I feel good about it.
Yeah, I think you've got a really good squad, man. Like it's tough to see who to go and get. I mean, knowing that you've got those cornerstones, I'm not sure who your quarterback is, but you might look at maybe doing a quarterback upgrade if you could send your QB and maybe one of those bench guys to get a slight upgrade. Something to think about. But Coach, for you, I've got the question: MVS or Ladd McConkey for the rest of the season?
Ladd McConkey.
Ladd for me as well.
I'm just going
Tyler,
with, it's more known than unknown. I don't know with MVS. I need to see it one more week.
We've seen Saints wide receivers do all sorts of things this year. Tyler, who would you target in a deal with D-Hop and Waddle? How high do you think you could go? I think we left off here maybe.
Yeah, that's the one
But
probably about as high as you're going to get is about Zay Flowers, probably.
yeah, I think that's a good name to target too. Coach, we've got a PPR trade over here. Give Hall and Tillman for A.J. Brown and Dobbins. I currently have Kupp, Devonta Smith, Kyron, and Dowdle. Would you give up Brees Hall and Tillman for A.J. Brown and Dobbins?
Absolutely.
Both shaking their head yes. I'm going to say yes too. Now, you would have Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, but I think that's a problem you can work through and even maybe move a guy like Devonta Smith and add another running back or something like that. But I think that's perfectly fine. Last two here, 10-team, 6-4, trade Hill for Higgins and Aaron Jones. Wide receivers are CD, Reed, Brian Thomas Jr. Running backs are Kyron, Tracy, Esme, and Warren. Tyler, would you do this deal? I absolutely would.
Yeah. For the running back depth, yeah, I would.
I'd do it and be prepared for Higgins to let you down, but I would do it.
I think you just need to buy
your
time.
expectations.
Yeah, just buy time, temper your expectations, buy time for T. Higgins getting your lineup. But Aaron Jones is plug and play for you. I mean, Kyron, Tracy's on bye this week, if I'm not mistaken, but I think that's a good trade. Last one here, guys. Jose says, is it a good trade? I have Aaron Jones for wide receivers McLaurin. That's a tough situation. I mean, McLaurin's playing really good football right now. Aaron Jones is a really good running back. So it really is going to come down to your team and what you need. If McLaurin is a guy you're starting week in and week out, or if it's a guy that's your wide receiver 4 or something like that, then I would take Aaron Jones. But that's just me. Coach, what do you have to add?
It just depends on what your team needs. I really like McLaurin. If you need a wide receiver and you've got the running back room, then I would go get McLaurin. So,
yep. Tyler, anything different?
No, I'm pretty much there. Just team need, whatever you need.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate everyone who tuned in, everyone who dropped a comment. We really enjoyed doing this. We are live every single Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern with the Face Off Sports Network. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button with the Face Off, then head over to our YouTube at the FF Mediators. Give us a subscribe. Follow us over on X at the FF Mediators. If you ever need anything, shoot us a DM. We are always answering questions, giving trade advice, start sit, anything you can think of. If it's related to fantasy football, we are in there. So until then, we will see you next week, guys. Have a good week.